What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ian's Life and welcome to the RANS prop install video. I'm going to do things a little different than I normally do. This project, installing the prop on the airplane, took so much longer than it should have that I did not get to film all the segments I needed. Sometimes we went out and worked and just didn't film things, or I forgot to talk to camera and tell you what we were doing. So I'm going to kind of jump back to me in the shop and kind of narrate what's happening. But for now, let's head out to the hangar where we're just starting the project. Oh, and also a real quick note before we get out and get into the project for real. I've had a number of people commenting on my other videos about, hey, when is more build video on the rock hopper going to happen? And or when are other things gonna happen? And I just want to tell you guys, sorry for the long break between videos lately and how slow my output's been. Between it being winter here, which has just slowed down flying because of weather, and a lot of other things going on in life outside of YouTube videos, I just haven't had the time to shoot or edit like I normally do. But we've got a couple of videos coming up. We've got the prop video that you're about to watch, and a couple other videos, both on the rock hopper and on the RANS. So stay tuned for all of those. Some of them are already in the works, already being edited on, and I have additional pieces to shoot, and others are just things that are coming, some real exciting stuff on the rock hopper. So stay tuned for all of that, but let's hop over and get onto this prop. Now, I know I said we were going to go out to the hangar, but first things first, let's go out and do some flying. This is me testing the original prop we had on the airplane for performance. I'll give you some of the comparison numbers at the end, or we may actually do that as a separate video. But for now, here's me with the original prop doing some takeoff and landing tests and also some climb out tests, just to see how the old prop is going to stack up to the new one. All right, spinner's off. We're just about to start pulling the prop bolts. We'll get the original prop off, start taking a look at what it's going to take to get the new prop on. So things just got a lot more interesting, as they always do when you're doing stuff like this. We went to put the new prop hub on just for a test fit, and the bolt pattern is different. Now, when I purchased this prop, which I did buy secondhand, I bought it knowing that it was for a Rotax 912, or off of a Rotax 912. What I was unaware of is that there are multiple Rotax 912 patterns. So what we found out is that our new used Luga drive hub is for a 75 millimeter, we think it's a 75 millimeter smaller pattern, where our old prop, which is over here on the floor, see if I can get it over my shoulder, a little difficult, but it's over there. That guy is running a larger, looks like a 4-inch drive pattern with lugs. So we are either going to have to switch to a different prop hub, or alternately, we're going to have to switch to a different spacer and cut our spinner back plate for the different pattern so that we can use that. Needless to say, we're headed home today to do a little bit of investigation, and we'll come back and see where we stand. How'd it fit?
Fine.
Cool. So what we're doing here is we've just placed our original warp drive prop down on the bench. We've got a center point marked here and just a random line, really doesn't matter where it is, marked out here. That's going to be our measurement point. And we've gone ahead and taken an angle measurement at that point, and we've got 28 degrees for this prop. Now, the Luga may not at all correspond to that, but at least it gives us a starting point to set our blade angle similar to the warp. So now we're going to go ahead and drop the Luga in here and get it set up the same way. So now that we have the propeller adjusted, I need to deal with the prop hub. Now, we mentioned that the new bolt pattern on the prop hub was a problem. So we thought of several solutions for what to do there. We could buy a new prop hub, which would allow us to use the old extension as it is, and just put the blades in there. Unfortunately, the Luga propellers are coming over from out of country, so it would have taken a while to order another part, and it would have been expensive. Alternately, I could get another extension, which is what I was initially thinking of doing. That would just require finding the appropriately sized extension, which ended up being harder than I thought for the pattern that we were using to extend the prop out. So the next item we looked at was the possibility of modifying the existing extension, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. Using a turret on my mill, I'm drilling out pilot holes for all of the new holes we're going to put through the spacer. This allows me to perfectly center them up when I go to through drill them with the actual sized bit. This works pretty well. As a matter of fact, I made my tolerances too tight initially and had to open up the holes later on to allow for a little bit of slop in machining, where my new work was more precise than the original. So we've gone ahead and pilot drilled these with just a center drill bit. Those are all set. Now we're going to go ahead and drop a larger bit in and through drill these so that we can put the bolts through them. All right, moment of truth. We have put 6 new holes in here, which should line up. And just as a test, since this is the way it's going to go, there's our 6 holes that, looks pretty good to start with.
Now, the proof of the pudding is putting more than one in.
I think we've got I think we've made our tolerances too tight. Because this looks, here, let me take a look at it. we've made our tolerances so tight that it looks like I cannot see oh yeah, you can see just a few thousand, so I doubt that it's gonna be almost impossible to get this on camera, but there is just a little tolerance here where the holes on the original were slightly over drilled and ours are perfectly drilled, which doesn't account for machining tolerance. So we're gonna have to open them up a little bit. So with that spacer now cut out the way that it needs to be, we needed to go ahead and open up the spinner so that it could accept the new propeller. The spinner was never going to fit over the new prop quite perfectly, so we went ahead and cut it out. The shape isn't everything that I could have wanted. I would have really preferred to start with fresh material, but that would have required respraying a spinner and probably not matching our paint, so we went ahead and modified the existing one. So, real quick explanation of what I've been doing here. I've been using this cutout, which was started out life as off of one of these. I just copied it on and cut it with a pair of scissors. I've kind of narrowed in on a shape that I know will go around the prop and go down there. Now I've tightened it up even a little more than this. This is wider than it needs to be. And then I've just sort of blacked in this area to give me kind of a mental image of what my cutout's going to look like, because it'll be in shade. So as that sits there, you can kind of imagine that black marker area as the actual cutout, which will then go around the prop. I'll probably do one of these and kind of get it pretty close, and then I will transfer it to the other two and bring it onto the prop. This isn't finaled yet. I'm going to let this be for the moment being because we have a couple other things we need to take care of, and then we'll final this in and actually Dremel out the spinner. All right, prop cutouts are done. Let's take a look at those. Now, we had a bit of a difficult task here cutting these out because there were pre-existing cutouts I had to work around. So this isn't exactly what I would call my ideal. I'd really prefer these to be in a little closer, but unfortunately the old prop had a wider pattern up here, so we have a little more space in here than I'd like. But all things considered, I think from a distance, that's not going to be a bad look. Should look fine on the airplane, and certainly better than trying to do a new spinner and repaint it in matching pearl white. So I'm reasonably happy with this. Still have to drill this guy to match. We wanted to do this first because when we re-drill this, we can actually set that where it needs to for these bolts to match and the prop to match. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and mark out our drill for this back plate. Okay, we have our first hole drilled in the back plate now, which we've transferred through. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and put the prop back on and use that to mark our other 5 holes, since I can now put a bolt through this and it'll lock it in place. I don't have to worry about anything shifting while I'm scribing each of the individual ones. I call that the magic moment right there. We've got all 6 bolts. They are nice and both not too tight, not too loose. They're going through the spinner back plate, and then finally, if we can kind of see it under there, through the spacer. So at this point, these guys can't go any deeper because they have to go through the hub and then get nuts on the backside. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and take this out to the airport and get it installed on the airplane. Okay, we've got the prop out here. Airplane is as it was when we left it, so time to get the new prop mounted up and start setting pitch. So the prop is basically on. We've come up against one problem here where this looks awful close to threads here, but they're actually clear. That's not our problem. Our problem is that we had 2 bolt lengths we could choose. One of them longer, one of them shorter, and we wanted these extra threads to show to make sure that we absolutely made our 2 showing threads. However, because of how long that is, we now have the problem that there's actually a shaft, an unthreaded part of this bolt that is coming very close to the edge, and we don't want to feel like we've tightened this down and actually have not tightened it down because of how long that untightened section is. So I think what we're gonna have to do, you'll see I've already used 2 washers here, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to go to, I think, 1 more stack of washers there. That will bring this forward a little bit. That'll bring that in a little and will ensure that we're tightening on the threaded section, and then when we torque this down, it's properly torqued. We've just got done running the airplane. We've repitched the prop a couple of times to nail the same number we had with the old prop, more or less. We're sitting right at about 5,200 static RPM. It's time to put the cowling back on, put the spinner back on, and go for a test flight. And a successful test flight. We're a little bit under pitched right now. I can only get the airplane to about 100 miles an hour in cruise, and it wants to over rev in cruise. So for day-to-day non-STOL flying, I think that I'm probably going to add maybe a degree or degree and a half more pitch to it, which ought to get me to a nice cruising setting. And I might pull about a half a degree more out of it for absolute best STOL performance on the bottom end. But I'm really happy. The prop does not vibrate. It's very, very smooth. It's got a nice feel to it. I think we're going to have a real performer on our hands when all's said and done. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap things here. We still have more flying to do, but I'm actually going to go ahead and mix this flying video with another one I have to do for some other parts. So that'll come later. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.